Right, that was U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken speaking in Prague as NATO foreign ministers meet in the Czech capital. It comes a day after the U.S. gave Kyiv the green light to use American munitions to strike inside Russia for the purpose of defending the northeastern city of Kharkiv. Now, Blinken said that Russia is intensifying hybrid attacks against frontline states. In that context, Blinken said that this summer's NATO summit in Washington, as the alliance marks its 75th anniversary, is more important than ever. He also said that they would take concrete steps at that summit to bring Ukraine closer to NATO and to ensure that Ukraine has a bridge to NATO membership. Well, for some analysis on what we've been hearing, we can bring in political analyst Alexandra Filippenko, who joins us from the Lithuanian capital. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to Antony Blinken along with us and to speak with us today. First, your reaction to what we've just heard from the Secretary of State.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you for having me. I think the most important thing that we've heard is that's what Secretary Blinken said about adapting and adjusting to what is happening on the battlefield. We've heard this sentiment from the White House before, but Antony Blinken again said that the White House and, of course, the State Department can change its position on Ukraine and can change its position on using American weapons in Ukraine. And I think it's not by accident that Antony Blinken talked quite a lot about China, and because today we learned that China will not take part in the peace summit on Ukraine in Switzerland, and China's foreign ministry talked about it, and he confirmed that the country will not take part in the peace summit. And Antony Blinken talked a lot about China and China's role in helping out Russia and being Russia's ally in this war in Ukraine. And it looks like Antony Blinken tried not to answer one question: if the understanding of Russian military doctrine, Russian nuclear doctrine, has shifted in the White House, but it looks like it did. I think that we are just seeing the fact that it actually did without Antony Blinken actually answering this question and saying this, because we've seen that there has been a successful Ukrainian drone attack on a Russian radar station. It's a part of the Russian missile warning system, and according to Russian nuclear doctrine, if there is an attack on the Russian missile warning system, Russia can launch targeted nuclear attack. But Russia pretended as it didn't notice it. And no Russian official press, Russian official state agencies, they didn't even comment on that. So it looks like before only Ukrainians were not worried about a Russian nuclear strike because they didn't believe it would happen. And now the White House also doesn't believe that it would happen.
And Blinken also kind of wouldn't say at this point whether or not Washington would expand Ukraine's ability to attack within Russian territory. As of now, they're only supposed to use U.S. weapons defending Kharkiv. But that could potentially change in the future, he suggested. What do you make of Washington's change in policy in allowing American weapons to be used in Ukraine? Before they were concerned that could lead to an escalation. Is that still a concern?
Of course, the White House is concerned it's concerned with the escalation, but it looks like this limited purpose. As of now, they're saying they are allowing it to be used for a limited purpose of defending Kharkiv, but again, adjusting and adapting to what's happening on the front lines. It doesn't look like the White House is going to stop right now and right here. So looks like Antony Blinken is just voicing what is now being discussed in the White House. And although there are concerns, the White House is ready to answer to those attacks by Russia and is ready to defend Ukraine even more than before.
There was also a lot of talk of this summer's NATO summit. Now, Volodymyr Zelensky has said that summit needs to address Ukraine's invitation to become a member. Blinken said that they would take concrete steps to bring Ukraine closer to NATO. Does it sound like they're actually considering taking the step of membership, or did you hear something a bit non-committal in what Antony Blinken said?
It mostly looks like, again, those talks about this being a possibility, but it doesn't look like there is an actual possibility, at least in the foreseeable future, because the office of the President Zelensky repeatedly has said that they do not want to enter NATO, do not want to enter the alliance as a limited territory, because part of Ukraine is still occupied by Russia, and they want to enter Ukraine as a freed country. But this is not something that NATO can allow right now, because of course this will really mean actual war between Russia and NATO. This is how Russia tried to present this war. Russia has been saying that this full-scale invasion of Ukraine is actually war with NATO, with the collective West, as Russian officials usually like to put it. But NATO didn't want to show this war as an actual war, Russia with NATO, of course, because this is a war of Ukraine with Russia, of two independent states. So for now, I think there is not much possibility that Ukraine can become part of NATO in the foreseeable future. But this is, of course, a very important point that Ukraine is becoming such a close ally of NATO.
And finally, Alexandra, how are we seeing Russia react to all of the latest developments?
Well, as we've been seeing Russian reaction through Dmitry Medvedev, for example, who was Russia's president, and now we can rather call him a blogger, I would suggest. And he's been very strong with his suggestions. He suggested that Russia should bomb NATO countries and should retaliate in this manner. But those threats of nuclear attack, we must actually look at what is really happening. Yes, Russia is first among nuclear weapon states with more than 5,000 nuclear warheads. But of these, only about 1,600 are deployed. And this didn't change. This didn't change since 2021. This didn't change now. Nothing is actually changing in the Russian nuclear doctrine. Russia is actually not ready to use nuclear weapons. But the talks of using nuclear weapons are all over Russian state media. And of course, Russian officials are also using it as a talking point because they know that the West and the United States are really afraid of it, and they try to keep United States and the West afraid of it. Although now it looks like, just like Ukrainians, the West is not worried anymore about a Russian nuclear strike.
All right, Alexandra, thank you so much again for your analysis today. That's political analyst Alexandra Filippenko joining us there from the Lithuanian capital.